My name is Jane Dutawambura. I am a Kenyan living in Portugal, in Lisbon, and I have been living there for now 8 years, going to the 9th year. And I work in tech. I work for a software company, but I also work for European Commission in projects towards study abroad, study in Africa, and we've been doing quite a lot of outreach even for students in Kenya to come and study on Erasmus scholarship, because that is how I actually ended up in Portugal. So I would say I'm a Jacqueline of all trades, but ideally I juggle between working for the software company as well as outreaching for students to come and study abroad. So that is me in a short sentence. Yeah. I mean, first of all, my motivation to go abroad was out of a need to get better in my education. So at the time I was working here in Kenya, I was working for a hospital actually. And you know, the hustle, everyday hustle gets to you at some point, and I wanted to actually continue my master's in nutrition. And this is how I started applying for scholarships to go and study. And at the time, I actually graduated from Kenyatta University. And at the time, the international office in the Kenyatta University, they had programs, Erasmus programs, and they were looking for people to actually apply for them. So this is how I learned about Erasmus Mundus Scholarship. And I applied the first time. I remember that was 2014. And then I didn't get it. And then I applied again and got it the second time. So that is how I ended up going to study abroad. And so my motivation would potentially be like, you know, wanting to get better for myself in terms of education and also career-wise. And that is how I ended up in Portugal, because my program was managed by the Czech Republic. And also I would study in Portugal, and I had conferences in Amsterdam and Spain. And out of the countries that I went to by the time, Portugal seemed to be a very good idea. One, because obviously the paperwork was easier in Portugal, and this was one of the motivation why I ended up in Portugal. And since then, that was 2017 when I finished my master's scholarship. And since then, I integrated into the system by changing from a student to a working person. And it's been like renewal of work permits and getting jobs and all these kind of things. And here we are, 8 years, going 9, maybe 10 actually would be, by the end of this year, it will be definitely 10 years since I first interacted with Portugal, which is a very rewarding journey, I would say. It's very challenging. There's a lot of that, you know, comes about with changing from the Kenyan system and the Kenyan system of education to the European system and all these kind of things. And it's been a lot of adjustment. It was a lot of adjustment in the first year, I would say. It was a lot. But then over time, once you learn the system, you learn the bureaucratic system as well, then things become much better over time. So, yeah. Well, one thing I would say is very obvious: by motivating others to actually leverage on what they've learned, even a small skill learned online, on YouTube, on Coursera, wherever it is very valuable, and you never know the potential of a skill that you learned until you start utilizing it. So what I would say for the diaspora, for instance, is to motivate other Kenyans who are here and also others who would want to come and maybe reskill and upskill. To motivate them to know that there are opportunities. You can get better, whether in Kenya, whether outside. Abroad is not for everybody, I'll tell you. It's not for everybody. Obviously, you've heard this, but I would say the fact that you go abroad, you open up your mind to the extent that you realize that the skill that you got, maybe in the university or whatever maybe experience you got even from an internship, could be very worth utilizing even back home, maybe potentially starting your own project, or even starting a project even in the EU or wherever other country that you go to. So I think the diaspora needs to motivate Kenyans more and show the positive aspect of how skills can be reutilized and can be maybe changed, or, you know, upskill yourself and be able to make change or affect change wherever you are. It doesn't matter where you are. You can affect change even from afar. You can also affect change when you are in the diaspora and affect change in Kenya. It is very much possible. Yeah. I was recently honored to accept the Uzalendo Award during the Jamhuri Diaspora Award ceremony that recently happened in December. And this was a great honor to me, first because of the work that I have been doing with students, Kenyan students, telling them to, come abroad and they can come and study their master's program, their undergraduate programs, their PhD programs, and guiding them through the transition period, especially coming from Kenya through to Europe, to the European countries. It's actually a very big adjustment. And so this award was very significant to me because it means that there's a lot that still needs to be done, especially with the Kenyan universities, as well as all people who actually graduate, and sometimes they want to reskill, they want to upskill, they want to do their masters, they want to, upgrade and come back and do other projects back here in Kenya. So this award was a significant moment for me that there's a lot more that needs to be done. And obviously the diaspora in community that is in Europe or wherever else needs to also motivate students to come and reskill, upskill, come back and affect change in Kenya or begin their own projects and so on and so forth. And so what I would also say to the diaspora is to obviously shoot their shot in terms of making sure that whatever else that they have been thinking of, getting better in Kenya, perhaps you've been thinking of a project maybe back in your village, or you've been thinking of a project in Nairobi, in the city, you can get things better. Do it, start it, because you never know the type of change that you can actually affect until you begin that project, until you begin that simple idea that you've been calling simple for such a long period of time. You can do it, you can juggle. It's a lot, obviously, when working in the diaspora or studying. There's a lot that comes with juggling between the activities of the day and so on and so forth. But if you begin small, it will grow over time, and over time it will have a life of its own, and you never know whom is actually watching, which obviously thankful for the State Department for Diaspora Affairs for ensuring that they are recognizing Kenyans in the diaspora in the work they are doing, whether they are doing it in their own different countries, wherever they are living, and as well as in Kenya. So this is very significant, and so I would hope that Kenyans in the future could take on this and maybe nominate themselves and see where that goes. Yeah. I would say that over the past few years, we've seen quite a lot of changes, quite a lot of engagement with the diaspora people, and obviously the cooperations being created by various countries. In Portugal specifically, I remember that there's a time that there was a big cooperation happening, and we would hope that that could grow. There's a lot of potential. The Kenyan government is doing quite a lot already to integrate the systems, to build cooperations between nations and all these kind of things. And I think that you've done a lot. It is felt already. There's room for more, for sure. You still have so much potential that I think Kenya is one of the hubs that is always looked at, especially, for instance, when you're in Europe, you hear a lot of EU-AU cooperations. And I mean, there's a lot of interest, especially in Kenya, because of the good technology, the good weather, the good people, the good food, all these kind of things. And there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of opportunity out there. And I think the Kenyan government can also leverage the efforts of the diaspora people to ask them, where is the need? And they can answer this question and be able to also, try to form the cooperations that have not yet been formed already, or strengthen what is already existing. I think the voice of the people is very important in this case. And I think the Kenyan government is actually trying to do that quite a lot. And it's very commendable to see that we've come from a place where we didn't necessarily have that much of integration and cooperation to a place where we can feel it now. And I think we can still get better and better over time. And we've seen this already in the past few months and past year, actually, which is very commendable for the State Department for Diaspora Affairs. So Kenyans who would want to come and study abroad, first of all, the thing you should do is do a lot of research, especially on your own, because there's a lot of change, one, from the education system that you're used to in the Kenyan universities, or even in the high school if you're going to study an undergraduate. There's a lot of also changes in terms of the social changes, the cultural changes, the weather changes, the food, people, name it all. It comes at you fast. And if you have not done any type of research, if you have not possibly even connected with the people who are already existing in the country of your choice, then this is going to be a mind-boggling thing for you. So first things first is to do your research in terms of exactly what are you going to study. Do you understand the education system? Do you understand the grading system? Because it's going to be very different. Do you understand how they teach, their methods of teaching? Sometimes, for instance, you go to a European university and there's a lot of drilling for you to, study a lot of journals, do a lot of research, do a lot of assignments, something that you might not be used to in the Kenyan university system. So do your own research first. Also hone in into other people who've gone there before, alumni of certain programs, and ask them to tell you how their experience was. Obviously, their experience and your experience will definitely differ, but it helps a lot to get this information so that you're well informed about what exactly to expect. Another thing that really would affect you is balancing schoolwork, social work, and also just basically living in that country that you're going into. So it's important for you to understand there's going to be a lot of change. So give yourself time. For instance, maybe give yourself the first semester to readjust everything in terms of you going to school and taking care of yourself. The hyper-independence that comes with it is also something that you really need to be aware about, that it's going to be, pretty much everything is going to be up to you. Your studies, your social, your life, daily life, your health, your mental health, connecting with people at home, your responsibilities, they're still gonna be there, only that they will be set up in a different country. So beware of the transition period. Give yourself the grace that you need, because you also need to give yourself time to adjust, to learn the new culture, to learn the people, learn the language. Very important, so that you can be able to integrate very well. So do your own research first, hone in into other people's information, and understand exactly what to expect for you to be very successful in your studies abroad. But I think it's one thing that is very rewarding to study abroad. And so I would encourage Kenyans to, if you are thinking, or you've been thinking about it, just go ahead and apply. If you are rejected the first time, apply once again. It never hurts. You have nothing to lose, absolutely nothing to lose, other than you being in that process and learning a lot, and eventually you might be successful and just go and do that program that you've been wanting to do. Yeah. My biggest plans for this year, obviously the projects that I have been doing to go on. I've been very privileged to be able to work around a Study in Africa program that has been funded by the EU, so into various different African countries, is to basically still do a lot of capacity building with universities, with students, with prospective students or anybody else who would want to actually come and study abroad. I think that is work that I am very passionate about, and I'm willing to continue and make it bigger and better as much as possible. I really disperse a lot of information even on my social media handles, just for anyone who is interested to come and study abroad. And I'm very biased with the European countries, obviously. So I think this is one of the projects that I really want to hone in and power up a lot of energy into it, just to elevate the information out there. Because one of the things that I noticed is that people don't have the information, or sometimes people consume information, forget about it, and then they see it later and they're like, okay, it's a deadline, and they want to actually apply for a certain program. So it was just basically tell people that, you can actually come and study abroad, and, just guide you into the process of it and what to expect and the documents that you need and all these kind of things. So this is one of the projects that I'm very passionate about, and I'm hoping that I can continue on over this year. Obviously, another thing would be welcome people to Portugal. A lot of Kenyans have been having this interest to come to Portugal. There's a lot of opportunities as well in Portugal to come and study, to come and work, to come and also even begin businesses, for remote jobs, for remote, people who actually are nomads. There's a lot of opportunity that is in Portugal, even for Kenyans. We've seen a lot of Kenyans even in the past year coming over to Portugal, either to work, to resettle there, and it has been fantastic to welcome people. Funny enough, people think that Portugal is in Spain, but hey, it's actually a country on its own. It borders Spain, but we've seen a lot of Kenyans coming to Portugal, and the community is growing, and it is amazing to see it grow this way, because by the time I was interacting with Portugal the first time in 2015, there wasn't as many people as now. So it's fantastic to see that, and it will be amazing to see it grow even 2025. Yeah. So to add on to the projects that perhaps the State Department for Diaspora Affairs should take up in the next year, I think it would be important to have activities such as a town hall with different diaspora people in various countries across the globe to really understand what exactly they are going through, because the voice of the people is very important for the State Department of Diaspora Affairs to understand what exactly is happening with the people who are out there, and this would inform even the policies, and also inform perhaps the type of help that they would hone into the various embassies across the globe. And this would be very helpful, especially for Kenyans, because people go through a lot in various countries, and the set of problems in one country definitely are very different from another country. So this would be one of the activities that I would propose to the State Department of Diaspora Affairs to take up, perhaps do maybe a monthly or every 3 months or every 6 months, whichever the capacity that they might have. This would be very helpful. Another thing that would be very helpful is to reach out to the countries that have not yet been reached through the mobile consular services. There has been a lot that has been done over the past year, which is very commendable, but it would be important to reach out to other countries that have not been reached, for instance, Portugal, where we have about now 500 people thereabout who really do a lot in terms of paperwork, and they suffer a lot because we have to go to France to make sure that our paperwork is done, and it would be nice for the mobile consular services to be brought to Portugal. Now, another thing that would be very important for the State Department of Diaspora Affairs is to facilitate also other opportunities that might be out there, for instance, opportunities in Portugal, and this would be maybe create a database that would be maybe embedded on the website of the State Department for Diaspora Affairs for any opportunities that are out there and people are not aware of them. And this would also lead to cooperations with the various countries, for example, Portugal or any other country in the EU or Australia, US, etc. A good cooperation whereby, you know, people who are looking to go and work or study, they have the right information, they have the correct information, because there's a lot of information that is out there that is not correct. And if the State Department for Diaspora Affairs could have this information on their website, this would be very helpful, because Kenyans would have one place where they can find the right information. They can find information about their visas and the processes that they need, the documents that they need, and this can be facilitated and can be very helpful even for prospective students, people who want to go work, people who want even to just go travel. And this can form corporations in various capacities for tourism, for trade, for education, environment projects, etc. Name it. There's a lot that can be done, and I would hope that this can be taken up and be able to even build the capacities of people in Kenya as well as outside, those who are living outside Kenya. So this would be very helpful. In closing, I would really want to encourage anybody who is looking to move abroad to not shoot their foot before you shoot your shot, because the opportunities are there for you. The opportunities are there. If you apply for them, if you keep on pushing, you can definitely get it. So it's important for you to find the right information, be able to connect with other people who've moved to the country of your choice. Do your own research. Do your own research, because there's a lot of information that you can get on your own and understand a certain country that you have been wanting to go into. And so it's very important to understand that the opportunity is there for you. You're equal to the task. The opportunity is not for those people, it's for you. And all you need to do is apply. All you need to do is find the right information. All you need to do is to hone in into the bases of information that are relevant to you. And the experience of one person does not have to be your own experience. So it's also crucial to understand that the transition period would be very, very challenging. And so take it upon yourself to give yourself grace, to understand the culture, the weather, the food, how you are going to live in that country as well as work and study. And so I would hope that any prospective student or anyone who wants to go and work abroad takes up that shot and sees it as an opportunity to get better, as an opportunity to also affect change back home, as well as affect change even in any other country, and be able to grow that way. It takes time, but it is definitely worth it. Also, a very special thanks to the PS, Madame Roselyn, who's been doing quite a lot of work around creating corporations in the diaspora, as well as ensuring that the Kenyans understand that there is a department that is specially for them that they can utilize whenever they're in distress or wherever they want to celebrate their successes, and so on and so forth. So this has been quite a journey, and I would like to really commend the work that has been done by the PS, Madame Roselyn, and to see that Kenyans really feel the cooperation, they feel the unity, they feel that they're not just left alone. And now we've come from a place where Kenyans would feel as if they do not have any part of being recognized, but now they are recognized. Now their voice is felt. Now there's lots of surveys going around to hear their voice on policy, their voice on things that are happening back home, which is very commendable so far.